Hello, and welcome to Nothing Ever Happens in Canada, but we know this is simply not true. This is a Canadian podcast about the myths, legends, and just good old stories Canada has to tell. I'm Canadian Girl. Thanks for joining me today on this very large bonus Easter egg hunt road trip across Canada. I thought it was a good idea to go on a road trip here on the channel and check out some of the very large, and I mean very large, like world's largest, roadside attractions, statues, and anything else large and interesting along the way here in Canada. We will come across Easter eggs celebrating music, and you'll notice there's quite a few fiddles across this country. There's many large pieces of fruit across our provinces, and of course, very large animals can be found everywhere. As we drive along, we'll bump into anything from a giant squid in Newfoundland and Labrador that sits at 55 feet long and holds a Guinness World Record. There's a giant potato in PEI, of course, and surprisingly, a massive cartoon banana in Manitoba. The world's largest coin can be found in Ontario, and you know we're going to see the largest dinosaur in the world right here in my beloved Alberta. And a large Easter egg found right here in Alberta too. There's the world's largest hockey stick and puck for all you sports fans out there, and there's a very large, famous moose that watches over Saskatchewan that until very recently was the largest in the world. Join me now as we go on this bonus, very large Easter egg hunt road trip across our beloved country that we are all missing being out and enjoying so much right now. Starting out on the East Coast in Newfoundland and Labrador, we find our very first large Easter egg on this road trip. On November 2nd, 1878, near what was then Thimble-Thickle Bay, known as Glover's Harbor in Newfoundland and Labrador today, fishermen would pull in a 50-foot or 10-meter long, 22-ton giant squid, or it became beach depending on which fishtail you believe. Regardless of how it was found, it is still recognized today by the Guinness Book of World Records as the world's largest squid, and also earning this event in Glover's Harbor's history a Canadian postage stamp in 2011. The life-size steel concrete statue that can be found right along the harbor, you won't miss it if you're out that way and going for a drive, I promise. A few more large Easter eggs found here. In Deer Lake, you'll find an 11-foot moose, as well as an 8-foot strawberry. A large salmon can be found in Grand Falls, Windsor, and there is another 11-foot moose that can be found in Goobies. I hope I said that right. You'll notice we like our big moose across this country too. Now let's hop back in the car and head over to Nova Scotia to find our next large Easter eggs. In Nova Scotia, you'll find our next Easter egg to be quite a musical one. As we drive along the port of Sydney in Cape Breton, Nova Scotia, at 60 feet or just over 18 meters, a fiddle stands with its bow. It has a beautiful Celtic name as well that I am not going to try and pronounce. There is a long-standing Celtic heritage in the Cape Breton area, and local musician Kinnan Beaton's songs can be heard playing from the beautiful fiddle. It also lights up at night. Some more large Easter eggs that can be found if you happen to be in the area. There is also a massive moose here too, who stands watch over the Silver Sands Beach near Cow Bay. There is a smiling cartoon strawberry in Glenholm and a smiling cartoon blueberry in Oxford. There is also a 22-foot mastodon replica that was made after the bones were found around a quarry in Milford. Now let's head to Prince Edward Island and look for more large Easter eggs. If you went with us on our true crime adventure Episode 20 from Season 1, What in the PEI Potatoes? You'll know how important these little spuds are to this little island here in Canada. If you haven't been on this true crime potato adventure here on this channel, make sure you head there next after this. It's not surprising that our next very large Easter egg here on today's road trip is PEI's beloved potato, found in O'Leary. It can be found at the Canadian Potato Museum, of course, and to this day, they still have over 88,000 acres of potatoes being farmed every year of their beloved crop. Our next stop in Prince Edward Island is at a very dangerous Easter egg in Cavendish. A very large great white shark head pokes out of a roof at a local gift shop. I had actually took a picture of this when I was on my own trip in Prince Edward Island many years ago, but I knew nothing about it at the time. I just thought it was really cool. Turns out, it's there because, back in 1983, a man named David McKendrick caught a great white shark while fishing off the coast. It was said to be a huge 20-foot-long monster great white shark, one of the biggest great white sharks ever measured. If I only knew back then, while I was standing right there, how cool that shark really was. A few more large Easter eggs along this little island. There is also a very large mailbox in Stratford Pei. It is located just outside of Tangish, on the west side of the island. There is a guitar in Bloomfield that stands at 10 feet tall, or just about 3 meters, and another fiddle. This one is only about half as big as the last one we seen in Nova Scotia, standing at 24 feet, or just over 7 meters. Now let's head to New Brunswick. Here in New Brunswick, our first Easter egg is the world's largest axe. In Nakhowick, New Brunswick, I hope I said that close to right, just by the shores of the St. Johns River. It stands at 50 feet or 15 meters tall and is made out of stainless steel. She has a huge yellow handle that points to the sky, and her shiny silver head sits at a 45-degree angle, slightly hit into the ground, to give the attraction the look of an axe that has just recently been swung into the ground. So why the axe? The Canadian Forestry Association had named the small town in New Brunswick the forestry capital of Canada in 1991. Though they only held this title for 1 year, they were so excited they built themselves this massive axe to celebrate their success. This large Easter egg also has a little secret. There's said to be a time capsule hiding in the axe's head. More large Easter eggs that can be found here in New Brunswick. There's a very large Atlantic salmon named Sam jumping out of the water in Campbellton. He is 22 feet tall. The world's largest lobster is in Shadiac. He is 5 meters or 16 feet tall and almost 11 meters or 36 feet long. Shadiac is also known as the lobster capital of the world. There's another fiddle here too, standing at just 15 feet tall this time. There's a very large lumberjack in Kedgwick that stands outside the museum, and a silver fox in Salisbury. Now let's head to our French province, Quebec, and see what very large Easter eggs we can find there. Here in Montreal, Quebec, you'll find our next Easter egg is very orange because it's literally a giant orange in the middle of a parking lot. The Orange Julep restaurant, I hope I said that right, opened in 1945, and in 1966 it was rebuilt again, but this time to be an even bigger orange. Today it stands at 40 feet or 12.2 meters. At one time the restaurant was so popular waitresses used roller skates to zip around. They unfortunately no longer do this today. The food is said to be absolutely delicious, and its namesake, the Orange Julep, an orange drink that is so good its recipe is guarded just like KFC's famous chicken. A few more large Easter eggs to find around Quebec are a poppy in Baie-Comeau. In Montreal, there is a 32-foot or almost 10-meter tall milk bottle water tower used by a local dairy company. In Ragueneau, you will find 2 very large dinosaurs along the river. And I hope I said those town names close to right. I tried my best. Now let's head to Ontario. This province has a lot of very large Easter eggs for us to find. This large Easter egg might just be the shiniest one of them all today on our trip. The famous Canadian Big Nickel in Sudbury, Ontario, a replica of the 1951 5-cent coin. She is the world's largest coin, standing at 9 meters or 29 feet tall, weighing in at almost 13,000 kilograms or 28,660 pounds. Built in 1964, this 5-cent coin is 64 million times bigger than the tiny little one we have in a piggy bank or a jar tucked away in our house somewhere. Because let's face it, who really uses real tangible money anymore, especially small coins? This big shiny coin has been standing over Sudbury by the Dynamic Earth Mining and Geology Center for the last 56 years. Do you think you could keep just one nickel for that long? A fun fact, the guy who created the big coin actually sold it to the city for $550,000, a little bit more than the 5 cents it claims to be worth at face value. Getting hungry on today's Easter egg hunt? Our next stop just might have what you're looking for, the Big Apple. That's right, Canada has its own Big Apple, and it's nothing like the one across the pond. This Big Apple is the world's largest apple-shaped structure. That's right, one huge apple-shaped building that sits in Colborne, Ontario. Just how big is this big red apple building, you ask? It's said it can hold over 600,000 real apples inside. That's a lot of apples, but that's not what it's used for. Opened in 1987, the Big Apple is an apple lover's dream, selling tasty homemade apple treats that attract people from around the globe just to try them, like pies, breads, cookies, candy apples, muffins, and more. It's a baker's dream too. It can bake up to 100 pies at a time inside this huge Big Apple. And all I can think is, can you imagine that smell for miles around? Oh my. With a 35-foot or 10.6 meter diameter, the Big Apple stands at 10 meters or 32 feet tall, and visitors are always encouraged to make their way to the very top of the apple and take in the sweeping views of the countryside. Want to go searching on your own for giant Easter eggs that just might be in your area? There is a lot in Ontario, but here's a few to keep you busy. The world's largest Canada goose can be found in Wawa, Ontario. There is a huge wooden rocking horse in Innisfil, a massive cow in New Liskeard. At Godbout Auto Service in Kenora, Ontario, there is a very large spider made out of a yellow Volkswagen Bug. There is a very large Winnie the Pooh sitting in a tree that can be found in White River. And I have personally seen this one myself. It is a Disney kid's dream come true. A large shiny loonie can be found in Echo Bay, and there's a large shiny toonie in Campbellford, though neither are quite as big or shiny as the nickel we saw earlier. There is a very large famous elephant known as Jumbo in St. Thomas, a snowman who stands 30 feet tall in Beardmore. Paul Bunyan and his ox Babe can be found just off Highway 11 in Blind River. In Gravenhurst is a 12-foot tall, bright yellow Muskoka cottage chair. A 14-foot tomato can be found in Leamington. A flying saucer can be found in the town of Moonbeam. And a good old Bigfoot stands at 16 feet tall in Vermilion Bay. Now let's head to Manitoba and see what large Easter eggs are hiding in the prairies. Our next very bright yellow Easter egg on today's road trip brings us to Melita Manitoba, the world's largest freestanding banana. And not just any banana, a cartoon banana with a smiling face, with his arms outstretched, with a bluebird sitting on one of them. He's also wearing a championship-type belt around his waist that reads the Banana Belt. Melita is known as Manitoba's Banana Belt, which means it's generally the warmest place in the province. So why not build a huge cartoon banana wearing a belt to celebrate that? Because if you know anything about Manitoba here in Canada, It's known for being cold. So cold. Polar bears like to hang out there. So being known for being warm in Manitoba is pretty exciting. Our next Easter egg is a very artistic one that can be found in Altona, Manitoba in Millennium Park. Here stands a massive art easel with a reproduction of the famous artist Vincent van Gogh's sunflower painting on it. The easel stands at 23 meters or 80 feet high. It was created by local artist Cameron Cross in 1998. It took 2.5 years to make, along with 17 gallons of paint and 24 sheets of plywood. So why is Van Gogh's famous sunflower painting so largely displayed here in Altona, Manitoba? It is said to be Canada's sunflower capital. Here are some more large Easter eggs hiding along the prairies. In Portage La Prairie, the world's largest can of Coca-Cola made out of an old watering tower can be found. There's a very large swan in Swan River, a 12-foot tall pumpkin in Roland, a 15-foot Viking statue in Gimli, Manitoba, where our famous Gimli glider just went down. The famous Tommy the Turtle can be found in Boysenvein. There's a 30-foot fire hydrant in Elm Creek. There's a 16-foot long, 6-foot high Viking ship sailing around Erickson. An 11-foot cartoon golf ball with a smiley face, wearing plaid shorts, and he's holding a hockey stick, which I have no idea why, can be found in Gilbert Plains. Then there's a town with a sense of humor known as Gladstone. It has a 36-foot tall cartoon rock with a top hat and smiley face known as Happy Rock waving to the town of Gladstone. A 24-foot camel can be found in Glenboro. You'll find 2 huge gardener snakes on a rock in Inwood. There's a 16-foot mosquito in Comarno, the world's largest smoking pipe at 20 feet in St. Claude, and in Steinbach, a 30-foot red-colored Rolls-Royce model car. Now let's go find some more very large prairie Easter eggs in Saskatchewan. In Davidson, Saskatchewan, we stop along our Easter egg hunt to have some coffee. Here, the world's largest coffee pot stands at 7.3 meters or 24 feet tall, with a mug to go along with it. The coffee pot itself has a mural-like scene painted on both sides, with everything from hockey skates, a very old telephone, flowers, and more. The mug sitting beside it is blue with a red line around the top. If filled with actual coffee to share with all, it would hold over 150,000 cups. That's more than enough for the 1,000 people who currently reside in Davidson, Saskatchewan. So why all the extra coffee? It's said the town is the perfect meeting spot for people all over Saskatchewan, as it is quite central to all. The huge coffee pot and mugs sit at the small town's entrance to welcome all those traveling from afar to sit down and take a break. Our next Easter egg is kind of a famous one here in Canada. Mack the giant moose of Moose Jaw, Saskatchewan. He has been standing watch over Moose Jaw for 36 years now. He is 10 meters or 32 feet tall and weighs 9,000 kilograms or 19,841 pounds. He is made of concrete and steel. Mack can be found right next to the tourism headquarters in Moose Jaw. He was the biggest moose in the world until 2015 when Norway decided they wanted the title and made a moose that was just 30 centimeters, that's right, or 11 inches taller than our famous Mack, stealing his title after so many years. Some more very large prairie Easter eggs are: there is a very large prehistoric bison in St. Louis, which is based on the bones that were found just a few kilometers east of there. There is a giant baseball bat in Battleford. There is another shiny loonie. This one can be found in Churchbridge. In Cutknife, you will find a very large teepee and tomahawk. There's also Lumberjack Gus, who is 20 feet tall and stands in good soil. The giant hockey cards found in Kelvington, which is home to many famous hockey players, including Maple Leafs, Wendell Clark, and Barry Melrose. There is a very large woolly mammoth in Kyle, a huge bee in Tisdale. Ernie the Turtle can be found in Turtleford. A 20-foot year-round Santa can be found in Watson. and a statue of a man that was actually 8 feet tall, known as the Giant of Willowbirch, can be found in Willowbirch. Now we're off to one of my favorite places to search for some very large Easter eggs on our road trip today. Our next stop is Alberta, and there is a lot of very large things that can be found here too. The next very large Easter egg is probably one of my absolute favorites today here on our road trip, and I've personally seen this beauty a good handful of times. It's getting hard to count now. My beloved world's largest dinosaur, right here in one of my most favorite places where the dinosaurs once roamed, Drumheller, Alberta. Here you can find the larger-than-life, huge, massive T-Rex standing at 12 meters or 40 feet tall. It's made out of steel and fiberglass. This huge T-Rex has watched over the Badlands for 60 years now and sits on the south side of the river. If you're feeling really adventurous, you can go into the dinosaur's right leg, all the way up 106 stairs into the dinosaur's mouth, and see an absolutely stunning view of the Badlands that you will not see anywhere else. There's also fossils all over the walls inside the dinosaur. Do we have any Star Trek fans on this Easter egg road trip today? Well, you're in luck. A small town known as Vulcan, Alberta. That's right, Vulcan. It has everything Star Trek you need. Just south of Calgary, you will find the Starship Enterprise replica, standing at 31 feet or just over 9 meters, with a width of 9 feet or just about 3 meters. She weighs roughly 5 tons, and there is a Star Trek museum just down the street. And finally, this very large Easter egg is actually a very large Easter egg on today's road trip. In Vegreville, you can find a huge, beautiful Pasenka, which is Ukrainian for Easter egg. I have personally seen this stunning Easter egg myself on one of our own Easter adventures many years ago. Though she is not the world's largest Pasenka egg, which is in Ukraine, she is the second biggest in the world. She sits on a slight angle on top of a steel pole, spinning very slowly all around with the wind, so you can admire her beautiful gold and silver artwork. There's over 500 star patterns and 2,000 perfect triangles, with a few other lines and shapes to make up this beautiful design. She stands at 31 feet or 9 meters and weighs about 2,270 kilograms or 5,004 pounds. She was built in 1974 to honor the 100th anniversary of the Royal Canadian Mounted Police and celebrate the area's very large Ukrainian population. In Alberta, we like to do things big, so there is a lot of very large Easter eggs along our roads here. This is just some of them. A beaver in Beaver Lodge, Alberta. In Coronation, Alberta, they have a glowing massive crown with over 3,000 purple lights. There is a very large teepee along the Trans-Canada Highway as you pass through Medicine Hat. It's made out of solid steel and full of beautiful lights. The world's largest oil lamp can be found in Donalda, Alberta, and it actually lights up. There is a giant 40-foot cowboy boot in Edmonton, as well as a 30 to 40-foot baseball bat, a 27-foot pierogi and fork in Glendon, a large blue heron in Barhead, a 4-foot wide black diamond made out of painted aluminum shines in Black Diamond, a 15-foot tall pinto bean in the bean capital of the West, Bow Island. The 15-foot pinto bean is cartoon-like with a cowboy hat, holster, and gun on his hip. He smiles and waves. He is known as Pinto McBean. There is another T-Rex standing at 36 feet high in Milk River and is just gorgeous. A 42-foot long piece of kielbasa, that's right, kielbasa, can be found in Mundare. There is a 23-foot tall memorial miner standing in Rosedale. There is also a UFO landing pad in St. Paul that I have told you all about before. If you want to see pictures of any of these roadside attractions, please head to nothingcanada.com and look under the show notes section. Also, I will be posting some of the ones I saw myself on my social media, So do make sure you're following me there at the handle @NothingCanada on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Now let's head to British Columbia and see what large Easter eggs are hiding there. Our next large Easter egg on today's adventure takes us to the waters right outside of Vancouver's Convention Centre in Vancouver, BC. Here you'll find a digital orca jumping out of what looks like the water and into the air along Vancouver's downtown beautiful coastline. I have personally seen this attraction myself and it is stunning. The author and artist Douglas Coupland made the killer whale masterpiece out of stainless steel and aluminum blocks to give it that pixelated look. It truly is a stunning piece of giant art. For all you sports fans out there who I know are missing your sports badly right now, here is a sporty Easter egg for you. The world's largest hockey stick and puck can be found in Duncan at the Island Saving Center, a rink the locals have affectionately named the Stick. The stick was originally made for the 1986 Vancouver Expo celebrations. In 2008, the hockey stick was put in the Guinness Book of World Records, and in 2012, it was inducted into the Hockey Hall of Fame as the world's largest stick. The stick itself is made out of Douglas fir wood and is reinforced with steel. It is 62 meters or 205 feet long and weighs 28,000 kilograms or 61,729 pounds. Some more Easter eggs that just might be in your neighborhood? There's also a huge red motorcycle that can be found in Clinton that's made out of old truck and car parts. In Alert Bay, you'll find a very tall, 170-foot tall totem pole. A Viking can be found in Burnaby, a massive bear in Fort Nelson that looks like he is moving, a 60-foot fly fishing rod in Houston. Kelowna has its famous apple, another place I have also seen many moons ago. A huge 22-foot or 6-meter cuckoo clock stands in Kimberley. A set of giant skis can be found in 100 Mile House. The famous Mr. PG of Prince George, who stands at 27 feet tall or just over 8 meters. I have also seen this famous northern attraction many years ago. In Quesnel, you'll find a huge gold pan, which is any gold rush lover's dream. It even has a huge solid gold nugget in the pan. And finally, standing at 29 feet tall, Smokey, the forest-fighting bear, can be found in Revelstoke. Now let's head to the territories and see what very large Easter eggs we can find up there. About the coolest Easter egg up here in this rugged land can be found at Watson Lake in the Yukon. It is the Signpost Forest, dating back to the early 1940s, right about the time when the Alaska Highway was built. Signs began to go up showing how many miles or kilometers it was to certain destinations, like Washington, New York, Las Vegas, Vancouver, Calgary, Toronto, and more. The important transportation hubs along the way at the time. Today, there is an estimated 80,000 signs up and growing, showing how many miles or kilometers it is to get back to everyone's homes who has stopped and put a sign up. So if you are heading up this way, don't forget to bring your hometown sign. This next Easter egg is not so nice and can be found by the Caribou Crossing Trading Post and Yukon Wildlife Museum. There sits a giant mosquito in the field right next to it, standing at about 2 feet tall. Thank goodness it is not real or life-size. There is also a very large mammoth in Whitehorse, and if you head over to Nunavut, one of our other territories here, you'll find a huge Inukshuk that can be found overlooking the town of Rankin Inlet. Don't forget, if you want to see any of the large Easter eggs on our road trip today, the links can always be found in the show notes below. Well, that was a very large Easter egg road trip for sure. I hope you enjoyed this bonus adventure today here on the channel as we went looking for all those big Easter eggs in each province and territory. I never realized we had so many large pieces of fruit, large moose statues, silly cartoon characters, and even shiny large coins all across this beautiful country of ours. I'm Canadian Girl. Thanks so much for joining me today on this very large Easter egg road trip. Until next time, my friends.
This podcast is a part of Straight Up Strange Productions. Discover more shows like this one at straightupstrange.com.
Want to help support the show? You can do that in 3 simple ways. The first one, you can leave us a shiny 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. This small gesture means so much to this podcast as it allows us to move around on the podcast charts and meet more awesome listeners like you. The second, you can stop by our souvenir shop and pick up a souvenir from one of our great adventures and take it on your very own. There's t-shirts, water bottles, notebooks, and so much more. Do head over to our souvenir shop today and grab some adventure gear. And finally, the third way you can help support the show is by donation. We have a fancy PayPal button that can be found on the top right of our webpage. This button allows you the option to donate as much as you want, whenever you want. All donations will be used for the channel by buying new books for research and upgrading